The CDC set to decide who gets booster shots. A shocking rise in the country's murder rate last year. Was it a one-off or signs of a new trend? And high school students get a lesson in labor shortages. Thursday Need to Know. Let's go. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for Thursday, September 23rd. That's the date. Hey, Carlo. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano.
I feel you there, Jill. What day is it? What year is it? What month is it? I don't know. I'll tell you what, man. This sleep regression thing where they just sort of unlearn all of the things that they learn. What is that? Is it why? Why does that have to happen?
It's part of the gig, Carlo.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, it is Thursday, so I just want to promote tomorrow, being Friday, we'll be on YouTube for the live chat. That's 9 a.m. Eastern time. Join us. We'll send you the link, and we'll promote it again tomorrow morning. But 9 a.m. Eastern, Fridays, Jill and I chat along, tell us what's happening in your life.
It's a lot of fun.
It is.
And I'm happy we had a rebound. We had 1 week where quite literally no one showed up.
Okay, you don't have to rub it in. I know.
Because I just am laughing at kind of the behind-the-scenes image of you and Baker just being like, should we do this thing? No one's here. Should we just continue to listen?
We were just talking to each other about like what we were doing that weekend. It was insane.
All right, let's get to some news here. Last night, the FDA authorized booster shots for the Pfizer vaccine recipients who are over 65 or at high risk of contracting the virus, including at their jobs, so long as they're at least 6 months past their last dose. So this is about 22 million people. Today, the CDC's advisory panel expected to decide exactly who that should apply to, as well as what to do about people who got the Moderna or J&J shots.
Separately, I saw this study, and I just wanted to note it here because I know a lot of people have these concerns, including Becky back when she was pregnant. But a study that measured antibody levels in umbilical cord blood found that 100% of newborns whose moms were vaccinated with either the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccines had those protective antibodies passed on to them at birth. It's a small study. They just tested 36 newborns, but really phenomenal results that should hopefully convince more pregnant women to get vaccinated. And I know that it's a lot of pregnant women, Becky included, had real hesitations about that. So hopefully, as more data comes in, that will ease some of those concerns. And also, Jill, we hadn't really talked about this week. I had meant to bring it up the other day. There's this growing body of research out there that is suggesting that the Moderna vaccine is actually probably the best one. Pfizer seems to be more prone to waning efficacy, especially after about 4 or 5 months or so. But Moderna is really holding up, again, according to several studies now. It's a small disparity, and both of these shots are still excellent, but it could have real-world consequences that could end up affecting this booster debate.
Especially against the Delta variant. So there is this new thinking among a group of epidemiologists that we will start to see a dramatic decline in COVID cases, and by March could potentially just be at about 10,000 cases a day, which would be huge.
That would be nice.
And the thinking is that just the ebbs and flow of the way the virus works, that it's naturally like that. Plus, you've got, just say, 60% of people fully vaccinated. Plus, you've got kids vaccinated. And then, as you've been saying before, just how many people have natural immunity because they even if they didn't get vaccinated, they got sick from COVID. Right. So eventually, there are just going to be fewer people for this virus to actually infect. The big caveat for that, though, is that there won't be another variant that comes along that is more contagious and more resistant to the vaccines than Delta.
I just hope that we have some karma, some like human global karma built up after this last 18 months.
What do you mean? I feel like our karma is going to be like we're keeping you guys sick forever. I think we've proved, if anything, we've proved that we're just not worthy of nice things.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I just hope that we just deserve a break this winter. We really do. I'm hopeful that what you said is going to be what happens, and we get that.
To the border, where U.S. officials have now started to release some of the Haitian migrants who have congregated at the southern Texas town of Del Rio. They're releasing them into the country to await asylum hearings while continuing to deport others on flights back to Haiti. The sudden surge of migrants is being attributed to confusion over the White House's immigration policies, combined with misinformation being shared on social media and WhatsApp that is leading to more people making the trip.
Yeah, it's like a big game of telephone. Associated Press reporting about how a lot of these migrants are hearing about, things that just aren't true about how to get into the country, where to get in, what they need, and then that information just relays. I mean, we've seen that how many times with social media and these texting apps like WhatsApp, right? Immigration. What else is there to say, right? Clearly, the system is so beyond broken. But a president, regardless of who the president is, can really only do so much, right? This is something that has to be fixed in Congress. Congress has to pass comprehensive immigration reform, or this issue is just going to stymie every administration, Democrat or Republican. And I don't see any chance of that happening anytime soon.
I was listening to an interview with I believe it was a Haitian immigrant, somebody was trying to get into this country, and they said exactly that in terms of the telephone. They're like, well, we heard that the Rio Grande, this area right here, was easy to cross, so that's why we came, which is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got these pictures of these Border Patrol agents on horseback that are causing all of this controversy over how they sort of handled I don't even really know what to say. It's just, first of all, why are they riding horses? I mean, that seems kind of like, really?
With
horses?
Whips? It seems.
I think it seems like they were the rain. Yeah, it does. I'm not sure they were like technically whips, but it was just really bad visuals for this administration.
President Biden is taking a more hands-on approach in getting his economic agenda through Congress. Biden brought both progressive and centrist Democrats to the Oval Office yesterday to discuss their divisions, which are now threatening to torpedo more than $4 trillion in new spending. The party is deeply divided over the size, scope, and timing of both the infrastructure bill and that $3.5 trillion social spending bill. There's also this big deadline looming, the House planning to take up the infrastructure bill next week, and then the left wing of the party threatening to block it unless progress is made on that bigger bill, which the moderates are skeptical of.
This is a lot of.
Get it? I mean, that was just, I just got confused listeing to myself reading that.
No, I know. You're not the only one. Again, we cover this, and it's confusing, and it's a lot of like, it's politics, right? This is how politics works, and it's like all of this blah blah blah, and then something happens or it doesn't happen. But we just got to keep an eye on it, right? Because this is sort of this is Biden's presidency will probably sink or swim based on what happens here, right? There's also this deadline looming to fund the government. That's next week. Then they got another deadline to raise the debt ceiling coming in October. Republicans are saying that they'll allow a default on the debt if Biden doesn't abandon that $3.5 trillion bill. So we'll see if that's just posturing or not. But I know I've said this before, but can we please do away with the debt ceiling? I mean, there's no other country I know of that has something on the books that is so stupid. It's this like made up arbitrary number. Its only value is this tool for like political blackmail, as we've seen over the last 3 or 4 administrations now. It's like, imagine if you called your bank, and this is the best like analogy I can give. Like, it's like if you called your bank and you were like, I can't make my next credit card payment. I can afford it, but I can't make that because I've reached my self-imposed debt limit. Right? I mean, what would the bank say? They'd be like, okay, well, sorry, that's not a really good excuse. Also, just very briefly, Jill, on the congressional beat, I just wanted to make a mention of this. Bipartisan negotiations on the big police reform bill, the George Floyd Policing Act, or what I think it was called, they have failed. So for all the sound and fury of the protest movement last year, it accomplished basically nothing in terms of legislation.
In terms of federal legislation.
Yeah, sure.
Because, of course, that's what this is looking at. I believe it was Cory Booker, who was one of the congressmen who was working on it. He said it got to the point where it was just so watered down that he felt like he couldn't really even look in the eyes of George Floyd's family and say, we actually did something that's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Murders in the United States, by the way, rose by a shocking 30% last year for the biggest spike in recorded history. That according to newly released FBI data. The national murder rate was up across the board, not just in big cities, and it didn't correlate with any specific local government policies. Guns were the weapon of choice in 77% of murders. That is the highest share ever recorded.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of knew this was going to be the case, but it's still shocking to see that headline number, 30%. Really something. The murder rate, it's still a third lower than its peak in the early 1990s. And the good news is that the rate of increase this year doesn't look like it's going to match what happened last year. It's too early to tell. We just don't have the statistics yet.
I mean, I would hope it's not going to go up another 30%. I don't think that's something to cheer about, Carlo.
Well, no. I'm saying that I don't think that I think that what you're going to end up seeing, and this is just purely my gut. I don't have any statistics to back this up, but I think you're going to see that it was this big spike, and then it came down in 2021, probably not to the baseline that it was in 2019, but significantly. And I think the fact that it was just so uniform. Right, as you said, it wasn't just like in New York and Atlanta or San Francisco and some of these big cities, but it was really everywhere. I think it was just this product of these two massive shocks, right? These two massive national events that we had last year. One being the pandemic, and the other being the George Floyd murder and sort of everything that came out of that.
Wall Street rallied out of a 4-day slump after the Federal Reserve signaled that it was not yet ready to start tapering its aggressive bond buying program. It's widely seen as having helped keep the country, the economy from collapsing during the pandemic. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says that they could start the process later this year. The Fed also held interest rates steady and said that it did not see a rate hike in the cards until next year at the earliest.
Something I learned this week, and I thought of our conversation the other day about members of Congress trading stocks. Did you know that Fed officials can also trade individual stocks?
I did know that, yes.
Wow, that is crazy to me. Powell, I mentioned this because Powell said yesterday that he's going to start tightening the ethics rules for trading policy within the Federal Reserve after this outcry on the left over Fed policymakers who were trading stocks during the pandemic. It's just like amazing. I'm always amazed by this. Like, how is that allowed? Why, like, these guys are making the policy.
So it was Elizabeth Warren who I think got the ball rolling and wrote letters to individual Fed presidents around the country to say, please disclose some of your whatever. The irony is, Elizabeth Warren, fix Congress, lady. I mean, why are Congress members allowed to trade stock that they're voting on legislation about?
No, none of these people should.
None of them should. But it's just like, Congress, we've talked about it before on the podcast. I know I've spoken about it on Wake Up with Cheddar, but it's ridiculous. And the only people who could change the policy for lawmakers anyway are the lawmakers. So that's why they're never going to do anything about it. But the fact that there's such a conflict of interest that these lawmakers are literally voting on legislation that's directly impacting them based on, do they own Tesla? Are they going to then vote for subsidies for electric car vehicles? It's just crazy. Even the infrastructure package, right? I mean, so much of that money is going to go, and you can argue it's for the greater good, but why? Just take that out of the equation, the conflict of interest, right? They should not be allowed to have these stocks. It's unacceptable.
If you have a hand in federal policy, like, you shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks. Like, put it in a blind trust, or whatever they do, at other places. Like, I don't know. It's not that hard to figure out.
A big departure at Facebook. Mike Schroeder, Facebook's chief technology officer and one of its most senior executives, is stepping down from his job after 13 years. It is among the most notable high-level exits at Facebook in years, and it comes at one of the most turbulent times in the country's history as the company is fending off a rolling wave of controversies. Facebook's oversight board is demanding answers about Facebook's celebrity moderation program. Basically, that the platform has different rules for VIP users than it does for the rest of us. And that was among the big revelations in that series of Wall Street Journal exposés from last week.
We being Cheddar, have the reporters from that series of Wall Street Journal articles on today, 2 p.m. Eastern on Cheddar. You can watch on cheddar.com or wherever you watch Cheddar. So that should be a really good show. It's called Facebook Under Fire. Once again, 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll just hear more from these reporters about what they learned from all of these leaked internal documents at that company.
Saturday Night Live has locked the first batch of hosts and musical guests for the upcoming season. Owen Wilson and Casey Musgraves are going to open the show's 47th season next weekend, followed by Kim Kardashian and Halsey the following week. It's going to be the first time a Kardashian has hosted SNL. There's a lot of pushback to the Kim K pick. What do you think,
Is there?
Carlo? There is. At least Deborah Messing on Twitter is pushing back. I don't know if that counts as like major outcry, but she was upset.
No, I don't have a problem with it. Well, I mean, I'm actually surprised. I would have sworn that she had done this before. She's like the queen of media, right? Why wouldn't she have?
Oh, sorry. I got a cue in my ear and I missed what you said. What did you say?
No, I was just saying that I'm surprised that Kim Kardashian hadn't hosted already. It's like she's everywhere else, right?
Yes, agreed. I'm surprised she didn't host 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. What SNL, they also announced it's going to be live streamed on Peacock this season for the first time. That sort of shows you that Lorne Michaels and team are very aware that they have a ratings problem on their hands. You know, the ratings have been not good for Saturday Night Live lately. And there's still no word yet on casting exits ahead of the new season. The ones to watch here are Kenan Thompson, Kate McKinnon, Cecily Strong, Adie Bryant, and Pete Davidson. Those are the ones that people who sort of pay attention to this stuff think could be on the outs, just having done it for so long. Especially Kenan Thompson, he's been there forever.
That's why I think he's not going anywhere. I think he's going to stay. But I watched the season finale, and it did seem like at least Adie Bryant, Kate McKinnon, Cecily Strong. They were particularly emotional. So it seemed like it was going to be their last. Why is SNL so tight-lipped about this? Why don't they just tell us if they're leaving? I don't understand.
They're probably in like the contract negotiations, I would guess. That's maybe it. I don't really know the answer though. I just saw Kate McKinnon, by the way, in a Verizon commercial. Like, is that what she's going to do now? I don't know. I would rather be on SNL than that.
She'll
Actually,
probably
maybe not.
wind up doing, but I mean, what, for one day of work, you're going to make millions of dollars? SNL is kind of grueling in terms of the schedule.
You're right. I take that back, actually. I would rather do Verizon commercials than SNL.
And finally, if you want a sense of just how hard the labor shortage is hitting schools right now, consider this. 11th graders in Boston took a party bus, complete with a stripper pole and neon lights, on a field trip last week. An English teacher at the Brook Charter School tweeted that when their bus accommodations fell through because of a lack of drivers, the school made arrangements with a charter bus only to have that fall through. And then their only choice was to hire an off-duty party bus that is normally reserved for less educational endeavors. Can't make it up. Man. This is the plot, I feel like, of an Adam Sandler comedy or something. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think in Boston they just call that a regular bus. But no, I was thinking,
Ouch.
that's not fair to Bostonians. But I just love the story because I as a former 11th grade boy, I mean, I'll just tell you, those boys are going to be dining out on that experience for years. Hey, you guys remember when we went to on the field trip with the stripper pole?
To like the Museum of Natural History,
exactly.
On a party bus.
Exactly. Yeah. In all seriousness, no. I mean, it does just show you where things stand. I know we talked last week about this labor shortage sort of hitting these like back of the house jobs at schools, like cafeteria workers and school bus drivers. And it's really something like it's not really acceptable, right? Like what do we have to do? What do we have to pay? Like how much does a bus driver make? I don't know, double it, triple it. Like we have the money from the federal government just keeps being printed here. Why can't we make sure that these people are in these jobs? Like we have failed our kids so much over the last 18 months. The idea that, this is kind of funny, but the idea that like you're not going to be able to get picked up on your school bus because they can't find a driver, it's terrible. And just on the labor shortage beat, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but New Orleans has a serious trash crisis on their hands. They basically, the trash has not been picked up since the hurricane from a couple of weeks ago. There's just no garbage men. Garbage people, I guess I should say. So yeah, I mean, you're seeing this all over the place, and you would have thought, at least I would have thought that by now it would have sort of fixed itself, and it hasn't.
There are warnings about the upcoming holiday shopping season, and this is not even comparable to lack of bus drivers or school personnel, but there are some warnings that there's so, and it's a little bit of a different issue, but there are so many problems in terms of our ports right now and in terms of just our supply chain that if you want to do some holiday shopping, the experts are saying do it now because the stores are pretty stocked. What's happening is you've got first of all, a lot of the factories in China and overseas have shut down because of COVID, because of COVID outbreaks, et cetera. So you've got, that is one thing that's going on. And then you have a labor shortage for people driving the people who work on the ships. And not only that, even if a ship can actually get to port, there's a shortage of truck drivers who could then take those goods to the store. So you've got a bunch of different things happening at once. And anyone who's moved or tried to order a couch or a microwave can tell you it's like the craziest waits to get furniture and other things like that. But it's only going to get worse. A lot of toys are made overseas, so parents out there, the only problem with ordering toys early is that I don't know if it changes as kids get older, but my daughter, it's like her tastes and what she wants, it changes every week. That it's kind of like, if I get this, is she still going to be into Paw Patrol, by December? I don't know.
I used to, that happened with me with my niece and nephew, where I'd be like, I'm getting them this hot new toy, and then I get it for them, and they're like, that was like so last season.
Yeah, they're like, we're not into Peppa Pig anymore.
Right, you loser. I got an email, by the way, from Target the other day that was like, Christmas is coming. I was like, Jesus, it's not even October yet. But hey, I guess you're right.
Look, I mean, that's going to be one of the differences this year. I think we're going to see a lot of rolling sales, basically starting now.
Yes.
So I don't think we're going to have that Black Friday rush. Okay, but that's going to do it for the podcast today. That is what you need to know for Thursday, September 23rd.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.